puts guests in the middle of iconic films and terrifying pictures, terrorizing them with multiple scare zones and the world-famous terror tram. Please welcome to the stage Universal's Masters of Halloween Art Director of Halloween Horror Nights, Chris Williams, and Creative Director and Executive Producer of Halloween Horror Nights, John Murdy.
How we doing, Scare Los Angeles?
Thank you. Appreciate everything that you guys do every year. Come and check it out. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much.
I will second that. You know, this is our 10th year that Chris and I have been doing HHN when we brought it back to Hollywood in 2006. And we would not have been able to do that without all of you, the fans of this event. So once again, thank you, thank you. So, I'm John Murdy, Creative Director of Halloween Horror Nights and producer of Halloween Horror Nights.
And I'm Chris Williams, Production Designer and Art Director of Halloween Horror Nights.
And if you've been following us on social media and on Twitter, we have a big announcement to make today. Are you guys ready for a big announcement? All right, why don't we roll video? Halloween, Michael Myers comes home to Halloween Horror Nights Universal Studios Hollywood. Are you guys excited? All right. So obviously, you know, Chris and I, we did Halloween in 2009, The Life and Crimes of Michael Myers. Hang on a second. We did Halloween in 2009, The Life and Crimes of Michael Myers! And, you know, earlier in the year on Twitter, I asked our fans to vote, you know, what was their, you know, favorite mazes of Halloween Horror Nights over the last 10 years, and that was one of the mazes they picked. So now, all these years later, we're bringing Michael Myers back to Horror Nights. Halloween is one of my favorite films of all time, absolutely.
And as mine is one of the most suspenseful, scariest of all time, too.
So we thought that, you know, since we're in Pasadena today, which has a lot of connections to the film, if you know your history of Halloween, we thought it'd be really fun today to talk a little bit about the history of the film, some of the behind the scenes of the film, and before we get into talking about like what we're going to do with Halloween this year in our maze. So to do that, I'm going to bring out producer-director Malik Akkad. He is the CEO of Compass International Pictures and Travis International Films. Long, long history with the franchise of Halloween. Welcome, Malik, to the stage.
Let's scream LA. Wow, very excited to be here.
Are you excited that Halloween's coming back to Horror Nights? You and I have been talking about this ever since we did it in 2009.
Yeah, that's right. What a great reaction. What a perfect place to announce it. So I'm just extremely excited.
So I thought since Malik was able to join us today, we talked a little bit about the history of the film. And really it all starts with your father, Mustafa Akkad. If you wouldn't mind telling us a little bit about how, you know, Mustafa brought Halloween to the screen.
Yeah, well, he at the time was working on a film of his own, and he was working with setting up a distribution company, and they needed content. So they were looking for young filmmakers, and he happened upon John Carpenter, who pitched him the idea of Babysitter Murders, which is pretty well known now, the story of that. And John basically convinced him by saying, I will take no money to produce, write, do the score, basically do everything along with Deborah Hill. And that kind of confidence, I guess, is pretty much what sold my father on taking the chance on the first film.
Now you mentioned something, I think you guys are horror fans, you know this, right? You know Halloween was originally called The Babysitter Murders, right? But pretty quickly they changed the name to Halloween. And, you know, what do you think the impact of that was? Because when you think about it, Halloween started what I call the holiday horror films, right? Because after that, Friday the 13th, you know, My Bloody Valentine, New Year's Evil, I'm sure you guys know a few more of those titles. But what do you think just the name alone meant for the franchise?
I think it was massive, not only obviously the yearly event, but what it's become, because at the time, 78, Halloween was not what it is today, and there wasn't as much in the
I know, I was trick-or-treating.
And it's really, the holiday has evolved so much, and the film has been a part of that for sure. And one of the most enjoyable things for me is to watch the effect it's had internationally. I mean, this film has gone into places where, you know, they didn't even know what Halloween was, and so now you find all over the world people are exposed to the holiday through the film, and so that's been very fun to watch.
Now you mentioned this before, but you know, John Carpenter. John not only was the director of the film, but he had multiple roles in the film. And you talk about the impact of, you know, what John Carpenter meant to the original film. You know, not only as the director, but writer, producer, and wrote all the music.
I mean, it's really a tour de force of John Carpenter's work. There's no doubt. Nobody had any idea what it would become. In fact, they screened it for executives without the soundtrack, and across the board, no one thought it was scary at all. And then they saw it with the soundtrack, and it was a whole different ballgame. But it's really a tribute to John's creativity and his fortitude. They had no money to do it. They shot it right here, as everyone knows, in Pasadena, where we also shot the remake, by the way. So we've got a strong tie to Pasadena. But it's really a tribute to what John created, and this icon has now become part of the American lexicon. You see Michael Myers, and it's instantly recognizable icon.
And also, just to talk a little bit about the music, because I think in the world of, you know, horror movies, there's certain pieces of music that, you know, are instantly identifiable. You know, obviously Psycho and what Bernard Herrmann did for the shower scene. But what John did for Halloween, as soon as you hear that main theme, and you guys, we saw that today when we played the video, as soon as you hear the music, you go crazy. He wrote that in something like 3 or 4 days, right?
Well, it's really interesting because that was the beginning of synthesized music, and you know, it was so rudimentary that it's not even the click track that you have today on computers. He was doing it by hand, and there's a couple places where the tempo slips a little bit, and so it's a really unique piece of work, and obviously one of the most recognizable scores or pieces of music ever. Absolutely.
Now, another person that was, you know, integral to Halloween, and you mentioned her name before, and she's not with us anymore, is Deborah Hill. Deborah was the co-writer of the screenplay. What did Deborah mean to the production?
Well, Deborah is a force into herself. Very, very intelligent, strong producer. I think she was a pioneer for women producers in general. I know one of the things that she really had an influence on the first movie was the female dialogue, the cheerleaders and the babysitters. So she really helped John in that regard. But she just, with the little resources they had to make that movie, you know, you have to give credit to the producer and John, to Deborah and John, for what they were able to accomplish.
And John focused more on Loomis, right? John wrote like Loomis's dialogue, and Deborah worked more on the, you know, the teenage characters and Jamie's character. You know, you mentioned this as well, and I think it's something that people forget today. Halloween was not a major studio film. It was a low budget, $300,000.
Correct. Yeah.
$300,000 low budget. I think they filmed it in what,
21 days, everything?
21 days. And if I'm not mistaken, when the film came out, it held the record for the biggest hit independent movie of all time, right?
Yeah, for many years. I think it was unseated by the Blair Witch Project. And you know, it's a far cry from them doing it in 21 days and $300,000 to when we did the remake, and it was 45 days and nearly 20 million. So it was They really did not have a lot of resources to make that movie, but the interesting thing is they opened it in 2 theaters in Kansas City. That they didn't even have money for the prints. And then the money from 1 week would come in and they would make 2 more prints, and then that money would come in and they'd make 6 prints. And that's how this word of mouth spread and how the release went.
I'm going to let Chris ask some production design questions. So, of course, Chris is our art director on Horror Nights.
Well, this film was shot in the springtime in Pasadena, you know, and we're trying to make it, at that time, you know, trying to make it look like Illinois. And, you know, well, if you grew up in Southern California, you know, very, very green in the wintertime and this fall time in Pasadena. So I look down there and see on the street where they have actually some brown leaves, and they're trying to get like some old leaves. And really trying to get this feeling and idea and sense of that it's Illinois in the fall. Do you know anything more about that?
Yeah, it's funny, actually. The first film I worked on, I was a PA on Halloween 4. We shot in Utah in the spring, and one of my fun tasks was being the leaf wrangler. We had an entire truck.
Is that a title you carry on this film?
Yes. We had an entire truck full of, you know, hefty bags full of brown leaves. Don't remember where they shipped them in from. And we would be doing big exterior night shots, and the director, Dwight Little, I was laying them out, trying to be very, you know, just putting a couple here, more leaves, more leaves, more leaves, dumping these leaves all over up and down the streets, and then I had the fun job of raking them up in sunrise. But
for reuse, to reuse?
Yeah, day in and day out. But that's been something that we've done several times. We've shot these in all kinds of times of the year, but I guess that's the movie magic.
From what I understand, when they were making Halloween, they actually, like, you know, Chris and Malik alluded to, they actually had to recycle the leaves because they only had so many, so they would spread them on the ground. You can see it up on the screen right now. And then, you know, the leaf wrangler would have to go and scoop them all up again. I understand they also had a really hard time getting pumpkins because pumpkins weren't in season either. And if you guys go back and you watch Halloween, you'll see a lot of Pasadena in the film, but you'll also occasionally see a palm tree in the background because in Southern California. Why don't you talk about the Myers house, Chris?
Yes. I think they had found this house, owned by a church, I believe, that was dilapidated, just pretty much as we see it as it is. And it just seems to be such a great boogeyman, typical haunted house, which, where I grew up, we had one as well. So, can you extrapolate on that?
Well, it's amazing how many things sort of fell into place so perfectly in this movie because, you know, this forgotten house has now become so iconic. And I think we've
been moved, am I correct?
It's been moved. It's still here in Pasadena.
From this location to another one.
Correct.
Yeah.
And we've had to actually rebuild it 3 or 4 times in the sequels to the exact specifications. And then at the end of production, when they wanted it to look new, they actually, the cast and crew all painted it and made it look new.
I think like literally everybody on the crew had to chip in for that because, you know, if you remember the movie when it starts out in 1963, the house is pristine. But that's actually the way the house looked in the film when they found it. So they had to put up wallpaper, they had to paint the house, they had to drag in furniture just to get the house for that one scene at the beginning of the movie. You know, another thing that's really interesting about Halloween also is the connection to the movie Psycho. Obviously, John Carpenter is a huge fan of Alfred Hitchcock, but you know, Janet Leigh, of course, you know, played Marion Crane in Hitchcock's Psycho in 1960, and of course was forever associated with horror movies because of the shower scene. And in Halloween, John cast her daughter, Jamie Lee Curtis. What do you think Jamie meant to the franchise?
Oh wow! I mean, Jamie is one of the nicest, most incredible women I've had the pleasure of working on. She's been in 4 of the films now. You know, there was a little bit of sort of that stunt casting, I think, you know, a nod to her mother, but really her acting carries that movie, makes it real. And that was a very unique kind of role at the time. That was a very new role, the babysitter, and fighting back against the killer. And so was a trailblazing role for Jamie Lee.
And when Jamie, I think I read, when she saw the dailies for the first time, she thought she was going to be fired. She actually, went to Carpenter and was like, "I'm terrible." And he was like, "No, no." And Carpenter actually, because, you shoot movies out of sequence. You don't shoot them in the order they are in the script. He developed this thing called the fear meter. Do you know about this?
I don't.
He developed a fear meter for Jamie so that he could tell her whatever scene they were filming, okay, this is how afraid you are in this scene. But of course her performance, became one of the, classic horror movie performances. And, for a while she was known as she is now on the television show, the Scream Queen, because of her, her absolutely, blood-curdling scream that she does in the Halloween films. There's other, strange connections to Psycho as well. That includes, Sam Loomis. If you guys know your horror history in the movie Psycho, Janet Leigh's character, Marion Crane, has a boyfriend at the very beginning of the movie. She's in that hotel room. That's his name. His name is Sam Loomis. But of course, in Halloween, it's Donald Pleasance. And I think he was the only real known actor at the time when they did this movie, right?
Yeah, originally they were trying to get Christopher Lee to play the role, which would have been very interesting, very different. But I think Donald, he really grounded that movie and made it so real and so scary. And having had the pleasure of working with him on several films, he ended up doing 5. But he really loved this character, and it was just a joy to watch him work, and the care that he had. It wasn't just doing another Halloween. He loved this character, and I think one time they asked him, Donald, how many of these are you going to make? And he said, I'll stop at 22. That's it. So anyway, God bless him. He's no longer with us, but he was a great, great man, a great actor.
And you mentioned this too. Christopher Lee, he was the first choice for Dr. Sam Loomis, and I heard years later that Christopher, who just passed away with us last year, one of the, of course, great horror icons, but I heard he went up to Carpenter and said, the biggest mistake I ever made in my career was turning down Halloween. All right, Chris, you and I have did this in 2009, so I want you to talk a little bit about The Shape of the Mask.
Yeah, The Shape of the Mask. Wow, we were doing this in 2009. We're looking at this again. Got Boneyard Productions helping us with this as well. So yeah, big applause. Big applause.
All right, give it up for Boneyard Productions.
We're taking this from scratch and going down the whole sculpting route and approvals and everything. So yes.
Malik, what do you think? Why did this mask become so iconic? Why do you think it's lasted the test of time? Obviously the movie came out in 1978, and here we are in 2015, and all you have to do is show that image and everybody knows what it means.
It's amazing. Also, when you think about what they could have ended up with, they had...
Well, I'll show you in just a second.
Okay.
We can do the research.
Jumping ahead here. Well, I'm always asked that, and I don't know. I mean, the fact that it's a faceless man's face, and you sort of have to project your own worst nightmare behind that mask. Whatever your worst fear is probably what you're envisioning behind it, and I think that's part of it, and I just think also it just looks fucking cool.
It's the emotionless kind of look and feeling to it, I believe, yes.
And I think that's like the essence of Michael Myers. I always think of him like he's almost like, the shark in Jaws.
Yes.
It's a relentless killing machine and no emotion. And I think when John was writing the film, I've heard him say multiple times that he didn't want people to be able to emotionally relate to Michael Myers. He wanted them to feel like he, almost like he came from outer space. And you just couldn't possibly understand what was driving this character. And obviously the mask plays a huge role in that. Now we mentioned that, this was not the original, design of the mask. Do you guys know what was? Let's hear it if you do.
That is clown mask.
Clown mask.
Emmett Kelly.
Emmett Kelly.
Yeah.
Emmett Kelly, Chris and I, we grew up, we know who Emmett Kelly was. He was a famous clown, and originally that was going to be what the mask was going to be. It was, I think, a Dawn Post.
Yes.
Emmett Kelly clown mask.
Yeah, they were also emulating that from, I think, the comedian Red Skelton, if you are as old as some of us up here on stage. But, he had like this sad look on his face, and you can see that as well. But I think when you do the cross comparison, between the two masks,
Would have been a completely different movie,
Yes.
that's for sure.
Yeah, but you know, it makes sense that they would think about that.
Totally.
The tie-in because of him as a young boy as a clown and the murder and the tie back makes sense that they would look at that.
And I heard this too when we asked the question, the Michael Myers mask, the iconic Michael Myers mask. What is that? Do you guys know?
William Shatner.
Shatner. That's what it was. A William Shatner mask. Again, I believe a Don Post mask.
Yes.
The producers actually approached Don Post when they were, you know, in pre-production for Halloween and wanted to design a mask, but they, again, this was a $300,000 low-budget horror film. They couldn't afford to do that. So, if I'm not mistaken, they bought the mask for $2
Yeah.
at a drugstore, and they made slight alterations to
Yeah,
it.
they cut out the eyes a little bit more and removed the eyebrows and the sideburns and slicked back the hair and painted it, and then did a ghostly white paint job to try to get that emotionless look and feeling.
It's kind of a trip to consider that when you see, you know, Halloween or any of the other films, that it's Shatner coming after you at the end of the day. That's what the sculpture was. Have you ever run across?
I haven't. I know he's asked about it continuously, and
I've heard he takes it as a huge compliment, actually.
I've heard he's very nice about it, but sort of plays it off. Sort of plays like he doesn't quite know, but yeah, he's very nice about it.
All right, we want to thank Malik Akkad for being here with us today and taking some time to talk about Halloween and the importance of this film now in the history of horror. Give the great round of applause.
Thank you all so much. I just want to say really quickly, this is the third time we've done Halloween with Horror Nights. Second time here in LA, my hometown, ScareLA, I love it. This is such an amazing maze. These guys do such amazing work. I wouldn't want it in anybody else's hands. And it's always one of the most highly anticipated and loved mazes. And really, it's amazing when we do this because I basically look at a design and say, great, and they do all the work, and it looks amazing, and I can't wait. I really think this maze is going to be the best one yet. So, thank you too.
Oh, yeah, I totally forgot. One last thing. You guys are fans of Halloween. I hear there might be another Halloween movie coming down the pipe. I don't know, I'm sure there's not a lot you can say, but...
Well, I'll use Donald Pleasant's quote, we'll stop at 22. But there isn't. Anyway, thank you so much.
Okay, so what we're going to do now, putting my little iPhone out here so I can make sure I keep an eye on the time, because what we'd like to do, Chris and I are going to talk just briefly about what we did back in 2009, the experience of making, you know, the life and crimes of Michael Myers, talk a little bit about what you can expect to see at Horror Nights in 2015. Want to try to allow some time. We don't always do this, but I want to allow a little bit of time for Q&A, because I'm sure you guys have a lot of questions. Wasn't planning on doing it originally, but I think it would be cool to hear your questions as well. And at the end of the panel, we have a Halloween trivia question that is so freaking hard. But I have confidence you'll be able to answer it, and whoever answers it correctly at the end of the panel is going to win the Ultimate Fan Package, so we want to make sure we allow time for that. All right, 2009, Chris and I did Halloween, the life and crimes of Michael Myers. What's like your memory of that maze? It's been a lot of years. Do you remember it?
Oh yes, I do.
Okay.
I remember this emotionless state coming out of everywhere, actually. No, it was really great. It was really good. You know, this is where, early on in 2009, where we were really trying to capture detail, and we had pushed things to a certain level, and we replicated the house, and we're looking at doing it again, even with more detail, actually.
We'll show you a little piece of art about that in a second. To me, this picture from Theme Park Adventure sums up our maze in 2009. This was a scene we did where it was the laundry room. Yeah.
Yes.
And it was one of my favorite scenes in the maze. You saw Michael banging against the window, and then he came through the door and he attacked Annie, and it was all this beautifully little tightly choreographed scene. But just that image of this, you know, the shape staring through the window, to me that said Halloween. So I'm very grateful for Theme Park Adventure for taking an excellent picture, because I've had it for years.
It's really good pick.
The other thing that I'll always remember about our maze in 2009 was how well our casting people did with this particular role, Dr. Sam Loomis. That's a side-by-side comparison. You know, you see Donald Pleasance on one side, and you see our Dr. Loomis on the other. Do you remember he showed up to auditions? Do you remember this?
Yeah, he's a very, very committed individual, this guy. He
had hair.
Yeah, he did. He
shaved
actually
his head for this.
Yeah, he did. He shaved his head. And Scott Fleckner, who was our head of casting, I mean, he's great. He just put so much thought and effort and time into really trying to look and, you know, any of our face characters, he's really trying to match them up as close as he can.
We
Great.
have the great honor and privilege of working with some of the best, what we call them, scare actors in the business. And a lot of times they come up with things that even, you know, Chris and I don't think of, usually good.
And this is one of these.
And this is a great example, because when we blocked the, this is the scene where PJ, you know, Soul's character is getting strangled by Ghost Michael with the phone cord. We were pretty conservative when we blocked this.
We are very conservative.
And I was going through the maze with you, and all of a sudden we saw Ghost Michael lift her off the bed. It looked like she was like literally being choked to death, and we like freaked out.
Yes.
And we went backstage and we're like, whatever you're doing, stop it. And they're like, no, 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 no.
Yeah.
I want to show you how we're doing this. So this was totally the actors who came up with it. But the girl had her foot kind of on the edge of the bed, and she was doing all the work. She was lifting herself up and down. The guy was just miming, but it actually became a problem in this maze, because everybody would just stop dead in their tracks and want to watch this scene. And from a special effects standpoint, you can tell them how we did it, because it's, you know, obviously you can't just choke somebody out.
Oh no. We had a fake phone cord around her neck that was just basically a necklace, actually. And then the two parts that she held were hid behind her back that you couldn't see. And then he was sheeted out as a ghost, and he was wearing a helmet underneath with Velcro to keep, well, not
It wasn't originally, actually. The helmet came later, because
the helmet did come
poor
later.
guy.
After we were seeing what they were doing, of course, much like in the movie, you know, the sheet gets moved around and such, and he wasn't able to see. So in a gag like this guy's got to be able to see what's going on and take in everything and see what he's doing.
There's 2 times in Horror Nights where we've literally had issues like this where the actor could not see, and this was one of them, because those holes you can see in the sheet, and this was, I think, taken before the helmet was installed.
Yeah, I think it was.
You can tell he's like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but I'm just choking this girl. The other time was the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. We had a guy in a bathtub, and we went like, you have like a skinned face on his face, and we went like, I don't know how many weeks into the event, and this actor came up to me and he's like, am I supposed to see?
I know, he always tells this story. I always feel really bad.
I felt so bad. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? He's like, well, my mask doesn't have any eye holes. And we had just forgotten to cut out his eye holes. So he went like 4 or 5 weeks without being able to see anything. The other thing I think we nailed in Halloween, and this was actually Casey Dodd, a good friend of mine, helped create this for us. We wanted to nail all the details, and we had the mental hospital section of the maze. So this is what you're seeing is the police report about Michael Myers. It's the also the police report of Judith Myers' murder, and then, you know, the Polaroid still of young Michael. And this was on set. We also had Dr. Loomis's ID. Do you remember how cool that was?
Yeah, it was really cool. With a lanyard and the whole bit, and we had it all glued down on the table. And
do you remember what happened to it?
Yeah, stuff.
Somebody stole it.
Disappeared.
Even though we glued everything down, I went through the maze like towards the end of the run, and I wanted to keep it. I will now admit that wasn't going to be a prop I kept, and I went through there and I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. It's like that scene with John Larroquette in Stripes when he finds out his truck is missing.
99% of the individuals that walk through our mazes are incredibly respectful. But, you
except
know,
for this one, who stole our shit. All right, let's talk about the new maze. Halloween, Michael Myers comes home.
You know, from 2009 to now, you know, we always...
Believe it or not, is this. And what you're looking at on screen, that is a pull of the original Michael Myers mask from the film. This we took over at Trancas Films. That's the hardest thing we've ever had to sculpt, or I should say Larry Bones of Boneyard Effects has ever had to sculpt in 10 years of doing Horror Nights. Is that a fair statement?
Very, very difficult. Likeness is very tough, but likeness of a slip latex Halloween mask? Wow. It's really tough. Because you can see some of the, you know, folds and wrinkles in, you know, a little bit, but I tell you, he nailed it.
Yeah, he did nail it. And actually, that's something that I thought we didn't, to be honest, I don't think we nailed it the first time. I think this time we really, you know, with the help of Trancas and being able to have the real mask in front of us and being able to really study this, I think this time we nailed it, and you're going to see it when you go through the maze. But sometimes the simplest things are the hardest, and that's absolutely the case of this mask. Okay, this is a piece of key art, and this is actually, this was your idea, so I want you to explain why, you know, your approach to the Myers house this time.
Oh, wow. So here's our key.
What's your idea? You came up to me and you said...
Yeah, that we should make it look like a haunted house, essentially.
Push it.
Yeah, and push it. So we are pushing it. We are going to push it to the next level with all the crazy scenic techniques and the painting techniques, block age, what we call, and crackle paint. So we're really taking it and really emulating it how it was in the first film of the older home.
Because you go back in the film, they go back to the house, you know, in 1978, and it's all dilapidated, but it is to us the quintessential ghost house.
And we're
the quintessential haunted house.
Trying to set a mood right off at the beginning.
So we really felt the Myers house was a place we wanted to spend a lot of time in this time. So the maze is going to start with the Myers house, and we're also going to end with the Myers house. It's the bookend for the entire maze. We're also going to be using projection. We also want to kind of look at Halloween almost in a paranormal way, because there's a lot of elements in this film where Michael is almost like a paranormal character, and I'll explain a little bit more of that in a second. Actually, the working title for this maze was The Ghost of Michael Myers. But we thought that probably wasn't appropriate or right because he's technically not a ghost. But that's the way Chris and I approached him in our heads. It was like, we're going to go back into the house, and in the beginning, it's almost like the spirits of what took place there are happening, you know, in front of us in almost a paranormal way. And that includes the projection you're going to see of Judy's death at the beginning. Of course, there's young Michael Myers. And when you go into the house, again, talking about kind of like these kind of visions from the past, the house is totally dilapidated, but you'll see young Michael make an appearance along the way. And I'm putting like little quotes from the film because the script is so awesome to Halloween, and Donald Pleasance's character is in essence leading you through the maze. It's his narration. It's a great line in the film. Every kid in Haddonfield thinks this place is haunted. So we're going to take you into the Myers house. We're going to take you through it. And there's a scene in the movie. I'm sure you guys picked it up over the years. What's that? You know,
yeah.
You got hungry. They refer to the fact that Michael ate a dog, but you never see it in the movie. Now you'll not only see it, you will smell it as well.
Hey, the shape needs to eat. You know? It really does.
Somebody got hungry. And this is what we talk about when we talk about the paranormal.
Yes.
And it's something we really didn't do last time. This is one of my favorite scenes. You know what's really scary to me about Halloween and why I love this film so much? When you really think about it, it's almost a bloodless horror film. There's very, very little blood. And it's about building tension and building suspense. And in a lot of ways, it's kind of like Jaws. You know, like I've said this before, Jaws is like 45 minutes into the movie before you ever see the shark. And with Halloween, there's all those incredible scenes with Jamie Lee Curtis when she's walking through Haddonfield, and like this scene here at the hedge where she sees him and then he disappears. So we're going to use a technology that's been around. You can tell them what it is. It's been around since the days of magicians in the 1800s.
We're doing a little Pepper's Ghost gag, actually, to try to create this paranormal scene.
So Michael appears.
Yeah.
You hear the line, he was standing right there, and he disappears. And we're going to take you, you know, to the hedge scene, but you know we like to make references to other films of the franchise, and we did this last time. There's things about Halloween 3 that I just absolutely love.
Same with me. Yeah, I know some different.
I know you guys love it too. I love the Dawn Post trick-or-treat masks. And of course, there's that great poem in Halloween, and I'm using it in the Maze Design audio, you know, Black Cats and Goblins on Halloween night. And since the film takes place in Halloween, and you know everybody's out trick-or-treating, why not have, you know, the kids that are out trick-or-treating be the kids from Halloween 3? Again, getting back to the paranormal, this is again as we're heading, leaving, you know, the town of Haddonfield and heading towards the, you know, the house where the babysitters are. This actually takes place in the laundry room, but we love this moment in the film where you see Michael Myers through the window and then he disappears. We're doing a whole lot of this kind of thing in the maze. It's really kind of playing off this idea that, you know, even though he's not a ghost, there is something almost paranormal about him. Bob. Again, one of my favorite things in the movie. After Michael kills Bob, what does he do? He's like an artist admiring his work. He kills him and then he stands back and he does that incredibly creepy head tilt. And so, of course, you know, with Halloween, when you're dealing with the original John Carpenter film, you have to hit all of the classic kills. So when we go into the Wallace house, of course, you're going to see the demise of Bob. And
we have this entrance the same from the backyard right into the kitchen like this. And I mean, you know, I know this is a stupid art director's comment, but I'm so jazzed about trying to make a 1970s kitchen, actually. I mean, yeah, I'm sorry. I digress.
But that's like, we grew up like that. I mean, that's, you know, is there yarn art in it?
I'm sorry?
Is there yarn art in there?
Yes.
Okay. That's all I want to know.
You know, within these films, we have to do a lot of screen caps. And yeah, John is the master at that. He just for hours. I mean, yes.
You pick up all these details, and we go, oh, look at this.
No, absolutely.
The kitchen, like even like the popcorn thing, I was like, Chris, look at this popcorn. You know, like that, you know, like 99.9% of the people going through the maze are going to go, wow, they got the popcorn right. You know, that's always been Chris and I's philosophy of Horror Nights. We always shoot for the Uber fan, and figuring that if we can do it right for the Uber fan, everybody else will come along. I also wanted to throw a little homage to Halloween 3. I love the Silver Shamrock commercial. Halloween. So you'll see and hear that in the house as well. You see anything you like? I could recreate that scene for us on stage. Maybe not. What's the rating on ScareLA? No, we did this scene before, but we, you know, with all the things we learned the first time, we definitely want to do this scene again. So of course, you know, Linda's going to die. Ghost Michael's going to kill her. Yep. And you know, I think what was sometimes. It's not about the boo scare. Sometimes it's not about a guy jumping out at you. Sometimes it's about watching our actors do their thing on set right in front of you. And that's the case in this scene. Not every scare in this maze is a boo scare. Sometimes it's just a really cool visual. Yeah. And that's what we're going to do with this scene. And I love Ghost Michael. I love his glasses. I love the whole vibe. So there's a little bit more Ghost Michael this time. Yes. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to say anything more than that. But
he's great.
He's a great character. So we didn't want to just have him in the one scene, and hopefully he'll scare the living fill in the blank out of you. I love this scene too. You know, the classic scene with Judas. We could tell. You know what? Tell the story real quick about Judas' headstone the first time we did it.
Oh my God!
Because you were so pissed off. It was one of the most mad I've ever seen you in the 10 years I've worked with you. You were pissed.
When we walked into the room, actually, and we had, you know, this was the final maze that we were building, if you recall. And so we were behind, you know, because we were pushing everything as usual. So we're in the last couple days, so we're approving last kind of minute things and walking through the room. So as we walked through this bedroom, I was like, John, what's wrong with the tombstone?
It was hovering in midair, attached to the wall. Like there was this much gap between the bed and the tombstone, and we were looking at the plans and going,
what happened? How did they figure out
how
make
did the guy think that this levitate was the place to drill this damn thing into the wall? You know, so this time the tombstone, I promise, Chris, is going to be on the bed. But the cool thing to mention about this scene, and we didn't do this last time, is you're going to see Bob.
Yeah.
you're going to see all of the people that Jamie Lee Curtis saw when she came into the scene in the film. And I want to make sure we allow time for a couple of questions. So, of course, I'm going to blast through these. But the clothesline, you're going to see the clothesline again. This is another one of those paranormal moments in the movie. And we're going to take you back to the Myers house at the end. There will be a confrontation between Dr. Loomis and Michael Myers. And this is one of my favorite lines, and I know it is yours too, in the film. You can't kill the boogeyman. It was the boogeyman. As a matter of fact, it was. The finale scene is something that concept, I think you came up with this one too. You have all the best ideas. I just sit here and talk. We built a model. I'm going to be very vague about this because I don't want to, this is something I don't want to give out. It was a concept you had. We built a little model with action figures. and we looked at it, we ran down there, we did all this, we built a full-size mock-up.
Yep.
So just at the end of this maze, you're going to enter, kind of riffing off this thing. You can't kill the boogeyman. The boogeyman is everywhere.
Usually we don't get to the point where we build models and that kind of stuff, so we can...
We had to for this, because it involves a lot of
math. So I know it's really vague, but
there's a scene that's kind of our homage to the idea that you can't kill the boogeyman. And that he's everywhere. And you'll see when you go through the maze, so that's it. All right, before we do the ultimate fan ticket giveaway, there's a little bit of time left. I wanted to allow time for just a couple of questions. We got like 10 minutes. If we have any Q&A, you guys can bring the lights up a little bit so we can see these folks, if you would. I thought there was going to be a microphone.
We have a microphone.
Thank you. Go ahead. You pick. Okay, I can't see it either. Questions, raise your hand. Anybody got questions? How about right over there?
Hi. I'm kind of like fangirling so hard right now.
I'm fanboying so hard.
Oh my god, it's like amazing. I'm a designer, so I was wondering what advice would you give designers who are interested in wanting to be involved in Halloween Horror Nights?
I'll let the designer answer that one.
You know, I started out as a fine art major actually in college. I mean, a lot of people take like a theatrical approach, and you know.
But I was an actor. I was a theater major, but I was an actor.
Because I know a lot of individuals ask him that same question too. But you know, honestly, I think my approach was different. I think the best approach is like what John has said to individuals really is more theater classes. What we're doing is live action entertainment. That's essentially what we're doing. You know, and really getting close, but not to a stunt, you know, and we push that stuff. But really, that is more or less the lines that I think, you know, an individual would need to take to get into this industry, actually in respect to design or art direction.
And I think too, like, I started doing this at 10 when I was, you know, in my parents' house in the 70s, but then even when I was like 14, I did it at a local like haunt that was for charity, and I didn't get paid, but I think even just like doing things where even if it's something you're not making any money at, there is an art form to this, and it's a very, very specific skill set, but its roots are all in theater, so any experience with the theatrical is good experience.
Oh, it is, and like,
Thank you.
Okay, hands up. Any other questions? Q&A? How about all the way there in the back? There's two in the back. My time warp.
So I know the second movie is kind of like a to be continued to the first one. Do you know if the maze will be like that? Like, will it kind of take place in both movies, or?
It's actually pretty rooted in the first movie, John's movie. And, you know, with a little homages along the way to some of the other ones, primarily, like I said, the third film, just because we love Silver Shamrock and the masks. And, but the movie itself is pretty well rooted in the first film. But actually, you know, I rather like Halloween too. I think that's a really good sequel. Yeah. So who knows? One day we might go to the hospital. If nothing else, so we could. We've talked about this.
We have talked.
We want to do the jacuzzi scene. So you know. If this is successful, who knows? We might do it again. Okay, another question? Down here in the front.
What do you guys think of the Rob Zombie version of Halloween compared to the original?
Yeah, we know Rob, and we work with Rob.
Know him well. Thanks for asking that question.
Take each of it is a more modern take of exactly what Rob would do, and that look and feeling of it, and the production design. I mean, he's a very cool visual guy, and you guys know that on his website. But yeah, visually and everything. Oh,
you know what I
very
really
cool.
like?
Very cool.
One of the environments I really like in Rob's film is with all the masks.
Oh yeah, see?
I thought that was super
that's
cool.
a really cool visual one.
You know, one of the things, when we worked obviously with Rob on House of Thousand Corpses for 2 years, and you have a history of Rob predating that. But I'll never forget Rob's manager, Andy Gould, said to me once that when he first met Rob, he asked him, what his ultimate goal was, and it was to do this.
Yeah.
I mean, really, besides music and films, he loves, this kind of stuff. And he had a ball working with us. We had a great time working with him.
He would love to do.
And now he's doing it.
Yeah,
What he said
like
he would always do, so it's really cool.
Horror-themed amusement park, like a whole park. That would be.
That was his
ultimate goal.
dream, and he's kind of doing it now, so it's
Yeah.
really cool. But there's definitely touches in his film that I really
Oh,
like.
yeah.
I love that mask thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How about right there, sir?
Hey, John, I know that you do a lot of the voices at Universal Studios. You do Mother Bates over on the... and I know that you alluded to doing a voice for one of the mazes, and would that be Loomis for this maze?
I'm going to leave it to mystery and see if you figure it out. Because I know, to your question though, yeah, I do Mother Bates. I'm the voice of Mother. Every time you go get a picture with Norman and you hear Mother bitching at Norman, that's me. One year on one of the Friday the 13th mazes, there was a weird situation, I think it was 2010, where there was two different actresses that did the voice of Jason's mother. It was the remake, actually, of Friday the 13th. And in one of them we were cleared to use, and the other we weren't. It's just like one of these things you find out legally as you're going through a project. And so we couldn't use it, but it was like too late. And so yeah, I became Jason Voorhees' mother in that maze, but I don't think anybody figured it out. I was Freddy Krueger in one of our Nightmare on Elm Street mazes for sure, where I had to replace the voice. So I did one on, I did a lot of voices. I might have like almost every scream you hear in the park that's a male scream.
I know, I can recognize John actually in the park.
I'm the voice of the Starway escalator that insults you and says rude things and naughty things that apparently nobody has figured out says, 10 years later and it's still saying it. Somehow I've gotten away with it.
The little Italian restaurant after the park opens every night by myself, I just kind of cruise over there and I'll hide in the shadows and just eat my pizza, because I love pizza. And I can hear his screaming across the way over a chainsaw, and it loops like every 30 seconds because it's a flow-through area. But I'll just sit there and hear John screaming.
That one hurt too. I did a session once years ago with nothing but screams, and it practically bled afterwards. It was so bad. But, and the female who does all the screams is a girl named Renata who works at Universal, and she's like the best screamer. So I always like, Renata, scream for me. Life is strange. All right, how about one more question, and then we'll do our fan giveaway. It's 5:26. It's like Michael Myers staring back there. I actually want Michael Myers to ask me a question. That would be totally awesome.
Hello.
My question is... Wait,
Hold on, he's going to bring a mic to you.
I have one.
You have a mic? You do. Do you have a microphone?
The laughter's kind of freaking me out, I'll tell you that. I'm leaving. Nice seeing you guys.
Out of all the mazes that you had to announce this year at a ScareLA.
Why are you holding the mic at Michael Myers' mouth? That's what I look at first. Michael, is there a nice question?
You may want to talk.
Go ahead, I'm sorry. I'll listen.
Why did you choose Halloween to announce?
At ScareLA?
Yeah.
Pasadena. Pasadena! This is the place where the movie was made. Plus also I think because, first of all, we're huge Halloween fans.
Oh, way huge.
And we knew people coming to ScareLA would be huge horror fans. And also, there's the, like I said, it's the connection of it being filmed right here in Pasadena. I mean, you can actually see the real Myers house. Oh, if you do that, by the way, don't go up and knock on the door. You know, because those poor people. If you've been there recently, there's like a sign. It's like, Halloween fans, stay back. You know, my wife's from Dublin and he's Irish, and I've gone to see like Bram Stoker's house because he lived in Dublin, and there, you know, there's a plaque. It's like Bram Stoker's house, sawed off. You know, don't knock on their door. It's kind of cool. Those poor people. The people live there, so. But we thought it would be really cool to do Halloween together, right? Pasadena. Okay, as promised, on Twitter. That would have been really weird on Twitter lately. This is what happens when you have a 8-month-old baby and you never sleep. So I have a certificate here. I'm going to pull it out. Okay, and I screwed up. Certificate, thank you. And I screwed up when I printed it. And it says 2, but I've now since signed it and annotated it with Chris and Malakakad. So that we're going to give away 4 frontline passes to Halloween Horror Nights this year, 2015. And bonus, behind the scenes maze tour of Halloween or the maze of your choice with myself and Chris, if I can write.
Yes, I'll do it.
You sign up for that?
I'm there.
It's much more interesting than that. All right. So we're going to do this in the form of a trivia question, and I made it diabolically hard.
It was...
I tested it backstage on certain people, and they're like, what? Because I'm cruel and evil. All right. Are you guys ready with your microphones, ScareLA crew? Because I'm going to pick somebody that's going to be like the first hand I see up. Unfortunately, if you don't get it right, I'm tearing that into shreds. Okay, right here, live in front of you. That's what's going to happen.
He's going to say this for about a week.
In just tiny pieces. I'm going to take it home. I'm going to give it to my 2-year-old and let her throw it up in the air and go, party! Because for some reason she likes to tear paper and do that. All right. You guys ready? Or do you want to pick it?
Oh, you got it.
Okay.
You're good.
Trivia question, of course, from Halloween. And don't shout it out, because then I'm really going to tear it into you. And don't try to Google this, because I can destroy phones with my mind. It's like the movie Scammers. All right. What is Michael Myers' middle name? Right there, standing up, sir, right there with the hat. You're the first person I saw in peripheral vision. God, I hope you get this right.
Wow.
Are you ready?
Hold on, I'm going to get ready here. Hold on. Okay, go ahead.
Audrey?
You're absolutely right, sir! Yeah! You look on your face, I'm so sorry. This is true. You are absolutely right, and you win. So come up and see us afterwards here, and we'll hit you off and get some contact information. You are going to win 4, even though it says 2, 4 frontline passes to Halloween Horror Nights 2015. Chris and I will take you on a behind-the-scenes tour of Halloween or Amazing Your Choice. Thank you guys so much for coming today. And thank you for being fans of Halloween.
Everyone stay seated. Stay seated. We have one more surprise, folks. One more surprise. This is the executive producer right here of ScareLA. Just walking up and tell you all about it.
Oh, okay. Hang on, guys. Stay in your seats.
Leave those butts in those seats. That's where we like them. I want to thank you guys all for being here today. We have a special surprise for you. In the next 10 minutes, we're asking for your patience and cooperation to do one easy task. We will hand you bags of candy. This is...
Are there razor blades in it?